All right, good morning. Thank you everybody for joining the webinar this morning. My name is Saylor Howell. I'm with OmniDeck. And today we're going to be talking in this series for the month of October on stop feeding the Excel monster. This is a painful scenario we're all familiar with dealing with. And today we're going to take an attempt to attack how to fix this or how to mitigate the use of Excel in manual entry and manual process. So let's get on with it. We're going to do a fairly quick webinar today, not quite as lengthy as we normally do, and get straight into it. So we will be recording this webinar. If you'd like a copy of it afterwards, just email us, let us know. We'd be glad to send you a copy. So what are some of the challenges that we've been working with in construction over the past 10, 20 years here that we've had technology in place? We haven't been doing everything on paper and just in our ERP or accounting system. We've bought a lot of apps. And so as things have automation or under the guise of automation, we've gone out and bought an app for each department. And instead of building a technology strategy, we've just bought apps to put out fires. And what it's done is created this Appageddon. So you can see we've got 12 apps, 38 employees. It creates hundreds of connections that will break. We're paying a lot of different bills. We've got multiple support departments. It's just a challenge, right? So before we went paperless though, we had a good thing going on in some sense that we had our accounting system. It was our single source of truth. Everything else was on paper. So it was really a matter of collecting the paper in time and then also making sure that what was on the paper was accurate, which was a major issue. All the job data was in the file cabinet. Communication, thankfully back then, was documented and formally communicated, right? Today, we've got everything in email, we've got it in text messages, in our Slack or Skype conversation, Teams, whatever that might be. And when it comes to litigation or just nailing down some communication about what happened on the job for the delay, then we don't really have it in one place. We got to go multiple places to find it. Even though we've got all this automation, our accounting data is still stale. We've got multiple sources of truth because every department has an app or multiple apps. How many apps do you have out in the field right now that the guys are logging into? If you don't have any or you just have one, how many paper forms are you using out in the field? So we really haven't solved the automation challenge. So what are some of the challenges that doing things the way we do it today have posed to construction? Well, first of all, what's not on this list is we're trying to maintain a certain job margin that we project before we take the job, hopefully. And we're trying to maintain that margin throughout the job and stay on schedule. Those are the two biggest things to accomplish, right? And the biggest threats to those are communication and documentation and process. So many times what happens is we've got some automation, but we have paper out there. So we start to get subcontracts, payroll, commitments, invoices sitting on the desk, and we've got to process through whatever software we've got. Well, the CFO or the president needs a certain report by a certain time. We typically have to go gather that information from multiple places, right? And build that into one Excel report. Maybe it's a crystal report we're building, but either way, that information isn't already there ready for a report to be generated. It's built from multiple places. So we end up getting stale information sometimes, or we rush to do that and leave other tasks on the table. And when the paper builds up, if we have to rush to build a report or rush to get some tasks completed as a controller or a CFO or whatever, many times we just go to Excel. It's what we're used to. I can quickly, build a spreadsheet that comes up with the information that we need to send in a PDF to someone. We all do it or have done it. The second thing here is underutilization. Are we really using our staff and the software that we have to its fullest ability? Typically, no. In my 17 years in construction software, one of the biggest things I've seen that's a challenge at every company is turnover, right? Turnover generates inefficiency because most companies don't have a training schedule, either quarterly training or semi-annual training, to make sure that the products that we have in place, the tools we have to run our business and be productive are trained on. Most companies aren't fully utilizing what they have. Something that you can start to implement an annual business process review with Sage or Viewpoint or whoever's your ERP provider. Get a consultant on site and do an 8-hour gap analysis. These kinds of things can really, really open your eyes and start to provide some automation without having to spend money in other places. Or begin like I mentioned, a training schedule with your field guys. Bring them in once a month or bring them in every other month and teach them the latest tips and tricks, on the tools that they're using. Maybe provide an incentive for them to start using it more fully. So these are some things that our customers have been real successful with. But what are some of those common bottlenecks in construction? Well, here's a few, but we're going to go over the ones that have an asterisk next to it today in the demo. Time cards is a big one. Purchase orders and change orders from the field. How many times have you gotten change orders in late from the field and thought that your margin was 5% and realized it was 2% because they came in late or at the end of the job? So these kinds of things happen to everybody. And then the last one here, WIP reports. For those of you using a WIP report, I would imagine it's many of you. A WIP report gives us an understanding of where we're standing at, where are we on this particular job? What is our percent complete? If you're a general contractor, this is something that's your daily duties. What feeds a progress report or a WIP report? Well, most companies have a daily report that gives us equipment usage, labor, on site, anything that's been going on, safety issues, whatever, and what we've produced. How many linear feet of that cable did we lay? So we can feed our WIP report and ultimately use that for many, many things, draw request, whatever it might be, billing. So we're going to go through a few of those. So when we talk about the solution to this, yeah, we can go out and buy a tool that helps us mitigate the use of Excel. But if we keep doing that, then we build that Appageddon with too many apps out there and no real picture of what's happening in our cash flow in the office and out in the field. So what a lot of large companies are doing to deal with this are building intranet portals or buying intranet portals. That may be a new term to you, but basically what that is, you use intranet portals every day. If you use Facebook, it's an intranet portal. You talk about something that's going on that's relevant to multiple people on Facebook and you chat around it. That's similar to what we do in OmniDeck, except it's more work processes. If you use Amazon, that's an intranet portal. NBC Universal, you can see here, they have an intranet portal. A lot of people are going to like SharePoint, different things like that for intranet portals. The challenge with this is it's too expensive. Most construction companies don't have the budget of NBC Universal or Amazon. So, but the benefit of those, if we were able to afford it, is it does reduce our app stack. It gives us simpler ways to enter the data. We don't have to train on multiple solutions. It gives us an ECM strategy that's succinct and easy to implement, right? And it gives us a portal experience for your unsophisticated user and your more sophisticated users. They can all use it equally. And also, finally, kind of reduces the amount of email and communication we get from other places. So this is the way that technology is headed. This is the direction. And those who get left behind will get left behind in margin and in quantity of jobs won, right? So we have to stay up to date with what's going on so that we can report accurately and timely to those that we're doing work for. So OmniDeck comes in and is the affordable answer to an intranet portal that most can't afford. So we start to centralize communication, workflow, and all your file management in a no-code assembly line. What does that mean? Hey, can you fill out a form? Can you approve and chat around that form? Can you click run on a report that's based on a form that is relevant to you? Yeah, the answer is yes, of course. So if you can do that on, let's say, time collection, then you've already learned to use the product. You can do it on expense reports, on work orders, on daily reports, all this information that's feeding a WIP report. You can do that in one place, but also use it for everything else. So this before and after picture you see here on the left, we see all the departments that are trying to interface or integrate with the ERP system, Sage, Viewpoint, whatever it might be. And on the right, you can see that with OmniDeck, it's actually tying all the departments together to integrate with your ERP system. So making integration and ultimately reporting up to the minute much more effective. Here's a few use cases for OmniDeck. We've got a lot of customers using it for pay apps, customer portals, purchase orders, change orders, work orders, time collection. Employee onboarding is a big one right now. Here in Texas, we're picking up a lot of business, and the COVID stuff has started to die down a little bit in the sense that production is increasing. There's more jobs, so everybody's hiring back more employees. Onboarding is a huge thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at how would we attack this and kill the Excel monster in your day-to-day business. So this is my OmniDeck my OmniDeck page. We actually use OmniDeck at OmniDeck. We eat our own dog food. And I'll show you our instance here in just a moment. Actually, I might just walk into that here first, and then we'll walk into some of the killing the Excel monster stuff. But this is my instance of OmniDeck. And this is my cup of coffee screen in the morning. When I get my cup of coffee, I go, okay, what do I have to do today? Instead of my email, I come to OmniDeck. Our entire company is using OmniDeck across departments. Some of our accounting processes are in here. We use Sage Intacct for accounting. And our support departments in here. Some of our marketing tasks are in here. We use HubSpot for marketing, but we literally use 3 apps to run our entire business: time collection, PTO requests, sales stuff, support stuff is all in here. Our knowledge base for our clients is in here as well. How we build our knowledge base. So we run our whole company on OmniDeck. So for instance, I did an out of office request here, and let me see if that's approved. I put in my dates, I sign it at the bottom, right? And once I submitted that, it went around the workflow of approval and whoever was involved in that approval. It looks like Chris was in the approval, so was Jude. Well, both of them approved it. You can see this check mark. Maybe I need to invite somebody else into the approval in here because it was something that happened on the job and we need to get this purchase request approved pretty quickly. And so I know Chris is out of town, so maybe I invite somebody else in his stead, right, that has the rights to do so. But you can see that we chatted around my PTO request. It was added to the calendar. I said I need to pull the request back because I need to get some more work done here at OmniDeck. So we handled all of this without ever having to go to email, phone call, Slack message, Teams. There was no paper, and all of this is reportable and searchable, all of it. So let's go into kind of how we would do that in OmniDeck. Most companies that start with OmniDeck, that initially they think, oh my gosh, this does everything. Where would I start? Well, we're able to get most of our clients that have very basic processes, time collection, expense reporting, maybe a daily report or something. We're able to get them going in a couple of meetings, and they're up and running and live with their data. So typically where they start, we'll build a couple of processes for them and train them on it, but then they come to the marketplace here. So this is your grocery list, if you will, of process accelerators and forms that you can just download. So I might come in here and go, you know what, we want an expense report and accounting. So let me take a look at an expense report. Let's see where there's one that I want to look at and maybe one that we can use. Here's a simple expense report. It's got some of the fields that we want. Maybe it doesn't have all of them, but if it looks pretty good, I'm just going to add this to my library, right? And now that's going to show up in my forms here on the right, and I can take a look at my expense report. Well, these are super simple to fill out, but almost just as simple to build. And this is integrated with my ERP data. So, all my project data is going to come up, all my, my managers and employees, I can select that and, select my jobs, cost codes, et cetera. And it's all linked to my ERP data. Well, what's even better about this is, what if I don't call it project? I call it job, or I don't call it manager, I call it supervisor. Well, we have to have some way to configure this without having to do code or call somebody or go through a bunch of stuff where we're going to look it up. Well, that's the beauty of OmniDeck. You don't like the form, or you want to create your own, come in and create your own. So I'm going to edit a form, and I'll just go to my expense report here. When I come into this expense report, like I said, maybe we don't call it project, we call it job. So I'm just going to come into my form builder here, call it job. You can see here that the asset type, I connected it to jobs. This is a drop down that we've done all the integration work in the background. So just say how you want it to show up. I want the state, the city, the job, all of this is right here, and you get to dictate what that is. So super easy to do that. And we're even doing math in here. This is sort of like Excel, but it kills the Excel monster. So like, our mileage reimbursement, for example, if I go down here, you see how these cells are named F1, A1, A2. Well, this is actually doing math, and you can do Excel references and expressions here. So my mileage reimbursement, maybe it's not 0.55, it's 0.545. So I just changed that. And as soon as I click save, if I've got administrator rights, I can deploy this to the entire company. Maybe I downloaded that new Excel or that expense report from the marketplace, and we don't have a good expense report process in our company. So as soon as I download that and make it the way I want it, or maybe the one that we have existing is fine, I save it and click publish. I can roll it out to the whole company and just send an email and go, hey guys, start using your new expense reporting application in OmniDeck. Well, it's done. You never had to go buy an application, right? So this is the beauty of OmniDeck, and you can see we're using it very, very successfully, and so are our clients. But let's talk about killing the Excel monster in a few of the samples that we expressed here earlier. So we'll start with time collection. So many of you might be pulling in time from the field, either by individual person or by crew, doesn't really matter. But what I hear all the time is, hey, our time cards or whatever the form is, it comes in by paper form. We've got these forms they got to fill out daily or weekly, or, some can't do the app that we have. Some do it by paper form. And eventually that stuff comes in, and then we enter that time for each person into some Excel spreadsheet, right? And then that finally is entered into payroll, because we don't have a solution yet, or we have a solution and it doesn't integrate properly, and we still have double entry, right? So you may have a process like this. Well, how would we do that in OmniDeck? Well, whoever's going to fill out their time card in OmniDeck, all they have to do as a field employee is on their phone or their iPhone, iPad, whatever it might be, Android device, they come in and they select the employee. They click the start date, and this could be whatever fields and however you wanted them named. And, that's going to be Monday, clock in, clock out, our regular hours. We can just enter that, which would automate with my clock in, clock out, my pay time. Let's say this is overtime, and that's going to calculate at a certain rate, and then they sign it here at the bottom. Well, what starts to happen with this is once they submit this, it goes around their routing of approval, right? And ultimately is going to make its way to accounting. Once it's approved, it will drop into Sage, into payroll, or whatever ERP you're using. So there's a stop here and a bottleneck with a lot of software companies that I've experienced and talked with. So great, we can fill out a form that's integrated with the information, simple for the field, that solves a lot of problems. The challenge typically comes in, hey, we've got multiple departments, we've got a lot of employees, and we need to route on 3 different criteria that your software doesn't have. Well, you can kind of say goodbye to that with OmniDeck. If you can draw it on a napkin, you can almost design it in OmniDeck, and it's pretty simple. So I'm going to just pick this timesheet here. I'll call this test, and let's create a workflow together here. So once my timesheet is filled out, this says it's filled out at the start. Let's say we want it to go to accounting first. So once it goes to accounting, our setup team would have come in here and set up your departments and your users for you. See, I've got my construction department, I've got my purchasing department. So I would just send it to accounting first. And then I'm going to put a condition on it and say, hey, if this is above or below a requested dollar amount, well, it's not an expense report, this is a time card. So let's say it's greater than a certain number of hours. anybody that submits a weekly time card that's over 40 hours, then I want it to go to the let's say the controller first, and then I would name the user here. And then I want it to go to the AP clerk for entry or a final approval before it goes into Sage, or, if it's below 40 hours, let's just send it straight to the AP clerk, right? So super easy to do some of this. We want to route on job or, property or, supervisor. These kinds of things are very, very simple. We can add new routing capabilities here within the system. You see, I've got a route set up for each one of my forms. So let's go through another example real quickly. That was time. Let's see. My apologies there. So we want to pull up, I'm going to pull up a daily report here. So this is my daily report, and I'm also going to pull up a WIP report. We're probably all familiar with a WIP report. If you use one, this is a sample of what one looks like. But importantly here, percent complete is typically what we're trying to look for, and what feeds that percent complete is, estimated contract amount, revised contract amount, a lot going into this, right? But this is one of the examples of a master report, just like might be anything that you're doing, but a master report that is fed by multiple areas, and something that you're doing in Excel that's probably being fed by Excel or collected in an Excel that we can completely eliminate. Well, what feeds a WIP report? Typically a daily report. Yours might look something like this. It might be broken out into multiple forms. So right here, you can see we're capturing weather. We're capturing which contractors were on and how many were on site, supervisors, any equipment usage, what happened, what work activity. You might have a daily report with labor on it or something else. And so these are the kinds of things that feed a WIP report. But in OmniDeck, I could just build that daily report. So is this my daily report? Let me see here. I think my progress report is my daily report. Yeah, so here's a daily report that's very similar. I'm going to GPS stamp where I'm at, right? So I'll allow it to show where I'm at. It's going to GPS stamp that. And now it's going to show a pin of where I'm at here in Allen, Texas at my home. So I can continue to fill this out. And what this will produce is a pretty PDF of a daily report. More importantly, this data that is filled out here and signed off on, when approved, is going to feed my my WIP report. Now, let me give you a better example of that, I think. So this is kind of mimicked to look like, or, Sage product, but if I go into more of a daily production report, maybe you want to do it differently. I can come in here and select which company is this for, which job. I might select an employee here, and then we're going to come in and put units installed to feed our daily report or to feed our WIP report. So I might come in and start picking a cost code. The unit of measure is linear feet, and we can pull in budgeted amount or commitments into here. And let's say our budgeted amount was 1,500 linear feet. We've laid 234 to date, and we've installed 48. So on this cost code, we're 19% complete. Now, once I submit this, we can have this go back into your ERP system and update that daily report. So no one had to build an Excel spreadsheet or collect this on any manual form at all. This is unheard of for a lot of companies. So there's a lot of labor hours that go into this that most people don't realize can be automated. The other side to this, let me show you one second here. Yeah, so this is a typical kind of PO entry screen. I don't know if this is, I think this might be Vista, or it could be Sage 300. I think this is Sage 300 series, but this is pretty common to see a PO request, PO entry screen in our accounting system like this. Well, there's nothing wrong with this. It gets the data and captures the data that we need. The challenge is the field's not going to use this. You might have some sophisticated guys out there in the job trailer that okay, we know how to use this in Sage. We go in and we enter the data in the PO request, and it goes through its process, right? It's already in the system. Well, that's great, but that doesn't work for everybody. How do we make it simple for the field to enter a purchase request and it follow that workflow of approval and then get entered into our ERP system as a request that can be approved and now become an actual purchase with items and dollar amounts that gets tracked? How many people on the call have ever had an issue where out in the field, the guys didn't have time to do a purchase request, or it was too difficult, so they just ran to Home Depot and bought the materials that they needed, and they submitted expense receipts later on. So these are the kind of things that steal money from the job, they steal margin from the job, and they reduce and limit our visibility into cash flow. Management needs to see cash flow, and they need to see it today, not 3 weeks from today. So this is an example of, and I'm going a little long here, but this is an example, what I'm showing here, of how you get up-to-date cash flow reporting and improvement in process today and not later. And what I mean by that is this is what we're actually using. This is Power BI. You might be familiar with it. I think it's $9 a month per user through Microsoft. And Power BI, we've connected this to OmniDeck, and we track all of our support hours through here, our time from the employees, and this is up to the minute. So I can look on here and I can see, hey, for Redstone, we've spent 67 hours, and some of these are consulting hours, and they purchased 68.5. So we probably need to contact them again, see if they want to buy more consulting hours to help with their, building out processes or whatever. So we can see our entire company right here, and up to the minute, right? Now, this is fed by OmniDeck across department. So you can't get that kind of cash flow visibility and where your staff is and what production has been done without having good data and having good data across multiple places. So with that, we've been really, really excited about what's going on with OmniDeck. We're able to implement and go live with clients very, very quickly and through our rapid deployment program, and able to integrate typically with your accounting system in multiple places and with other systems you might have. You might have Procore and you don't want to get rid of it. Fine. Well, let us integrate with some of that data. Let us pull some of that data into these forms. But at the end of the day, the name of the game is, how can we reduce applications, multiple applications, and give ourselves actually a single source of truth that drives the needle, moves the needle, and gives us reporting that we need today without having to do all the extra steps and even stay late at work? How can we automate these processes simply? And OmniDeck is the answer. That's why we built it, and that's why we're doing what we're doing so successfully. So I could show you a couple of other customer examples that look like this, where they're using it across the board. They have 60, 80, 100 forms in some cases and are completely paperless. So on some of our future demonstrations, or if you'd like to learn more about how we're doing other processes like HR onboarding, contact me, Saylor Howell, or go to our website, www.omnideck.com. And we'd love to show you through some of that. I did my new hire packet through signable and fillable PDFs at OmniDeck. It took me about 15 minutes to get onboarded. Some of our clients are doing, training courses through OmniDeck and tracking certifications. Some really, really cool stuff going on. So give us a shout. We'd love to do a one-on-one demo with you and learn more about your process and what you're trying to accomplish and how OmniDeck might be able to help. So thanks again. My name is Saylor Howell, and with OmniDeck, and hope to talk with you soon. And bye-bye for now. Oh, actually, before we end the call, I would like to open it up for a couple of questions if anybody still has some. All righty. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we will talk to you soon.